Well, as yesterday's press conference Donald Trump called to try to show the unity of the FBI and the Department of Justice devolved into him attacking his Department of Justice and FBI, embarrassing them, calling them out, and demanding immediately the prosecution of Jack Smith, his former special prosecutor that indicted him twice. Those political targets of Donald Trump, like Jack Smith, like Leticia James, the former prosecutors and lawyers, they're striking back. They're not going to be gagged. They're taking to the airwaves. They're taking to rallies. They're taking to interview chairs so that the American people can hear from them. If Donald Trump has the Oval Office, then Jack Smith has an armchair where he can give an interview, because he knows when he goes before the House Oversight Committee, they're not planning to do a public hearing with him. They're putting him behind closed doors. He won't be able to tell his story. That's why he gave the interview. Leticia James, she's taking to rallies to tell people about her framed job of a mortgage fraud prosecution being brought to shut her up and shut her down and tear her down. It's not going to work. And whatever that thing was supposed to be yesterday, the presser in the White House, where Todd Blanche and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi took turns being meat puppets and punching bags for Donald Trump as they stared down, shuffled their feet nervously. That wasn't about them. They're meat puppets. That was about Donald Trump telling the world, making good on the promise that he would be the chief legal officer of America, criminal in chief in charge of the Department of Justice. Department of Justice is fractious. It is collapsing on itself. There's a war that's broken out between the shadow Attorney General, Ed Martin, and the real Attorney General, Pam Bondi. There's a war that's broken out between Pam Bondi on one side, along with Todd Blanche, and Kash Patel, the FBI director. None of them get along. Donald Trump knows it. He called all the kids onto the carpet, and then he did what he did a few weeks ago with a social media post. He started demanding his political enemies be prosecuted, Jack Smith by name. I'm Michael Popok, pulling it all together for you here on this Thursday on Legal AF. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button. Let's get into it. All of a sudden, Jack Smith appears. It's like exquisite timing to give an interview. We haven't heard from him since he was fired by the incoming administration. You remember Jack Smith. Prosecutor extraordinaire, got 2 indictments against a president, a former president, one in Mar-a-Lago, presided over by Eileen Cannon for espionage and obstruction of justice, about how Donald Trump mishandled classified and top secret documents, classified documents, nuclear codes, if you will, war plans. And then he got an indictment in front of a different grand jury that was presided over. The trial was presided over by Judge Chutkan in D.C., the D.C. election interference case for Donald Trump's role in the insurrection and on Jan 6th. How can you forget Jack Smith, the guy that put a Subway sandwich under one arm and a thermos under the other and went to his job every day, just chopping wood and stacking it, chopping wood and stacking it. The only time we ever heard from Jack Smith is when he had something to tell us, like a report that he was prepared to deliver, or an indictment. He didn't take to the airwaves. He didn't stand in front of bicycle racks in front of courts and give impromptu crazy press conferences like Donald Trump. He let his courtroom work do his talking for him. And then he went off into the sunset, but now he's back. Either he's been tapped on the shoulder and contacted by people that said he's next on the indictment list, or he wants to get his word out now in his own message to the American people before he's trapped behind a closed door of the Senate or the House during an oversight committee. And Leticia James, she's out on, I don't know about the campaign trail, but she's out on a rally trail. They are talking out. James Comey, we already saw the James Comey Instagram the night he was indicted. Let's play the clip of Donald Trump now in the White House yesterday, Oval Office press conference. This was supposed to be to show the unity of the FBI and the Department of Justice. I don't think that's what we saw. I think what we saw was another frustrated Donald Trump being his own Attorney General. Let's play the clip.
To understand the full extent to which the Biden-Harris Justice Department weaponized federal law enforcement. What do you think the committee will find out, Mr. Smith?
I think it was the worst weaponization of a political opponent in the history of the world, let alone this country. And I hope that everybody's, they're involved in it. I'm not. I'm the one that had to suffer through it and ultimately win. But what they did was criminal. deranged Jack Smith, in my opinion, is a criminal. And I noticed his interviewer was, I think that was Weissman. And I hope they're going to look into Weissman, too. Weissman's a bad guy. And he had somebody in Lisa, who was his puppet, worked in the office really as the top person. And I think that she should be looked at very strongly. There was tremendous criminal activity having to do. If we don't have fair elections in this country, we're not going to have a country. And I've said it from the beginning, fair elections and borders. And we need also fair press, because if you don't have fair press, it's very tough. And we've got the strongest border of anybody. Nobody has a border. We have a border where the numbers just came out again. You saw 0 people came in illegally. Now, we do take people into our country legally, but 0 people. But, you know, you're talking about a different subject. You're talking about political crime. They have committed massive political crime. I hope they're looking at Shifty Schiff. I hope they're looking at all these people. And I'm allowed to find out. I'm allowed to, you know, I'm, in theory, the chief law enforcement officer. But I have a very good, talented group. This is about something else. But I hope they're looking at political crime, because there's never been so much political crime against a political opponent as what I had to go through. They raided my house in Florida. It was an illegal raid. I have a lawsuit that was doing very well. And when I became president, I said, I'm sort of suing myself. I don't know. How do you settle the lawsuit? I'll say, give me X dollars, right? And I don't know what to do with the lawsuit. It's a great lawsuit. And now I won. It sort of looks bad. I'm suing myself, right? So I don't know. But that was a lawsuit that was very strong, very powerful. They raided illegally my house in Florida, Mar-a-Lago. They went through the drawers of my young son. They went through all of the cabinets and drawers of the First Lady. She walked in, she said, wow, what happened? Because she's very meticulous, and this wasn't so meticulous. As she looked into the drawers and she saw everything a mess. It's what they did against the person that just got out of office. And then you look at these corrupt people. You look at Hunter Biden. You look at the signature. As an example, the Autopen. I just signed so many different things. An admiral, a 4-star general. I'm signing them left and right, the commissions. And by the way, I want to compliment John Thune and also Mike, our great speaker. But John Thune, all of a sudden I'm getting these things by the hundreds. I was getting one every 2 weeks. It would have been 4 years before you got them in more. You would have had some that didn't even get in, all because of Democrat obstruction. So John Thune did a great job. I must have signed 200 into the administration. We're just about caught up. It's amazing. And so compliments to John. He had to do some things that were very tough to do that he didn't want to do, but he was forced to do it by the Democrats. And as far as the shutdown's concerned, this is a Democrat Schumer shutdown. And he's trying to do it to get relevance back into the party because he's a loser. I've known him all his life. He's always been sort of a loser, but an intelligent one. But I think he's losing IQ points with time. I think that happens. I hope it hasn't happened with me. I know if it did, you guys will let me know about it very quickly.
So that happened. Donald Trump, not content with just sending off, DMs to Pam Bondi. Pam, hurry up. Running out of time, indict all my enemies. Now he's got to bring them in and embarrass them. Surprised they didn't pee themselves while they're in the Oval Office. I wonder if they were standing on plastic. That could be for a number of reasons, by the way. And I think it's ironic that Jack Smith beat Donald Trump to the punch because he gave the interview and then we had the press conference. In fact, Jack Smith, you want to hear from him? We got the receipts. Let's play Jack Smith's first interview since he was fired with Andrew Weissman. This is exactly the type of straight shooting, straight talking that the Republican MAGA don't want him to do on a public forum. That's why they're hiding him away behind closed doors when he gives his final interview or he gives his interview with them. Let's play the Jack Smith clip.
Self-promoters, they do not like to tell their own story. They cannot start a sentence with I, they start that with we. These are team players who don't want anything but to do good in the world. They're not interested in politics. And I get very concerned when I see how easy it is to demonize these people for political ends, when these are the very sort of people I think we should be celebrating. The people on my special counsel team were like that. The idea that politics played a role in who worked on that case or who got chosen is ludicrous. And Andrew, you know, and this is another thing that I think if you're not inside the U.S. Department of Justice, the idea that politics would play a role in big cases like this latest prosecution of the former director of the FBI, there's a process to secure an indictment. There's a process of predication, having some evidence before you do that. And again, I only know what I see myself in the media, but the career prosecutors, the apolitical prosecutors who analyzed this said there wasn't a case. And so they brought somebody in who had never been a criminal prosecutor on days' notice to secure an indictment a day before the statute of limitations ended. That just reeks of lack of process. And I think a lot of Americans do not see this as a political issue. Process shouldn't be a political issue, right? Like if there's rules in the department about how to bring a case, follow those rules. You can't say, I want this outcome, let me throw the rules out. That's why, frankly, you see all these conflicts between the career apolitical prosecutors I worked with, because they're being asked to do things that they think are wrong, and because they're not political people, they're not going to do them. And I think that explains why you've seen the resignations, you've seen people leave the department. It's not because they're enemies of one administration or the next. They've worked through decades for different administrations. It's just they've been doing things apolitically forever. And when they're told, no, you got to get this outcome no matter what, that is so contrary to how we were all raised as prosecutors. I think that's been the center of all the conflict.
And if Donald Trump thought he was going to shut down Leticia James, New York Attorney General, who, by the way, is still the New York Attorney General. I know we talk a lot about her case. She's still indicted on a framed job of mortgage fraud. Mortgage fraud being the bank knew that this was a second mortgage, a second home, but she wasn't supposed to put tenants in it. But she didn't put tenants in it. She put family members in it. You're allowed to let family members stay in your home. Doesn't violate your covenants of your mortgage. And she's not in default. And the total amount of the fraud is $18,000 over 30 years. I mean, for which she's facing a 30-year jail sentence. Come on. Come on. And if they thought that was going to shut her up, this is Donald Trump's retribution against Leticia James, because she obtained a $468 million fraud finding by a state court judge named Angoron. She got a monitor placed on top of the Trump Organization, which is still there, a former federal judge that watches all the money go back and forth. And then on top of that, she got a finding of fraud, persistent fraud by Trump and his kids operating the business, embarrassed him. Then she worked hand in glove with the New York attorney, with the Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, who got a 34-count felony conviction against Trump himself and 19-count felony conviction against Trump's companies. He's had it out for Leticia James. That is the reason. That is the vindictive prosecution. That is the malicious prosecution. And if they thought they were going to shut her up, they got another thing coming. She took to the stage during the mayoral campaign in New York. And here's a clip.
We see powerful voices trying to silence truth and punish dissent, and yes, weaponize justice for political gain. We are witnessing the fraying of our democracy, the erosion of our system of government. This, my friends, is a defining moment in our history. I know what it feels like to be attacked for just doing your job. But I also know what it feels like to overcome adversity. And so I stand on solid rock. And I will not bow. I will not break. I will not bend. I will not capitulate. I will not give in. I will not give up. You come for me, you gotta come to all of us.
These people, New York Attorney General Leticia James, Jack Smith, former U.S. Attorney for Manhattan and FBI Director James Comey, former National Security Advisor and UN Ambassador John Bolton, Lisa Cook, Dr. Lisa Cook, Federal Reserve. They're smarter than Donald Trump. They have better lawyers than Donald Trump has as lawyers, and they have They have truth and justice and the law on their side. And they're not going to be bound and gagged or have their First Amendment thought or expression chilled by Donald Trump. Not now, not ever. They may be talking from the land of resistance, but they need to be heard, and the American people need to hear them. And Donald Trump's, dictator North Korea rally press conference thing is just another sign of Donald Trump's shrinking. And he's the incredible shrinking president. I've said it before. He thinks he's acting tough and stronger by talking about himself on the third person, by doing this and doing that, sending in military troops and attacking Americans. He's making himself weaker. That's what the polling says. 61% of America or more rejects Donald Trump and Trumpism. Do you have any wonder why? That was Exhibit A. And we'll continue to follow it right here on Legal AF. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button, slide over to Legal AF Substack. That's the cherry on the top. That's the icing on the cake. That makes you a full-fledged member of the Legal AF community. $7 a month, and we'll overwhelm you with content on the Substack. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touches Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states, and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.